Hi everyone, it's Nicole here from Baby to Sleep. So today I want to talk to you about self-settling and self-soothing, two completely different things, but that can get associated with the same thing and cause quite a bit of distress for parents. So you'll have probably heard people talk about you've got to teach your baby to self-soothe for them to be able to sleep. That is not true. Now, okay, so you will have some babies that are sort of self-soothers to a degree. So they may soothe themselves by sucking their thumb or sucking their fingers, and they're finding ways to soothe themselves. However, they're not regulating their emotions because, again, other babies won't have that thumb that they suck or something like that. They don't have that thing. And that's fine, and that's totally normal. And in fact, it's actually the majority of babies more than it isn't the majority. So what we want to actually work out is what is self-soothing and what is self-settling, because before you can decide if you're going to start making changes to help your little one sleep better, you need to understand what it is that you're actually doing. So first off, I'm going to basically sort this myth of self-soothing and sleep out. Self-soothing is about emotion regulation. It is not about falling asleep. It is not about sleep training. We cannot, by helping our child fall asleep, teach them to emotion regulate themselves. We cannot do that. They are not self-soothing. Self-soothing is emotion regulation, and it takes until adulthood for it to actually be something that we are masterful of. And even then, we're not perfect. I know I'm not. I'm terrible for it, especially when I'm tired. But women, we tend to be in our 20s. Men tend to be in their 30s before we are really able to properly self-regulate and self-soothe. It's entirely different. So you can see why we can't ask our babies and our young children to figure it out. We have to help them and support them on a journey to start that process of learning how to regulate their emotions. Not something you're going to get to do as a baby, but as they start reaching toddlerhood, we can obviously start helping them find ways to not control their emotions, but manage those emotions a little bit better and understand what those emotions are that they're feeling, and give them tools to be able to help deal with it when they get those kind of feelings. So I hope that's making a bit of sense. I'll touch on this a bit more, but in a minute. But I just want to go back to self-settling, because again, this is something where it's an entirely different thing. It's not anything to do with emotion regulation. Self-settling is falling asleep. Simply put, it's falling asleep. We go to bed, we put our head on the pillow, we think about things, we process the day's events, and we fall asleep. It's no different for a baby or a child. They go to bed, they put their head on the pillow, they process, they fall asleep. Obviously, that's what we like them to do anyway. We know that that is not necessarily the case. But that is what self-settling is. It's falling asleep. Now, when we talk about falling asleep independently, we're not talking about leaving them on their own. It's about them just being able to do it without you doing it for them. So you might sit with them if you want to. You might help them. You might talk to them while they're doing it. You might just be in the room with them. But you might not be physically rocking them to sleep. You might not be physically feeding them to sleep. So whatever the thing is that's aiding them to get to sleep, if you're struggling, now, by the way, I must stress, there is absolutely nothing wrong with feeding your baby or your child to sleep at all. There is nothing wrong with rocking your baby to sleep. There is nothing wrong with co-sleeping. If it's working for you, if you're okay with it, if your baby's happy and you're all managing, there is absolutely nothing wrong with this. However, if you're at a point where you're doing something at bedtime to get your little one to go to sleep, and it happens to be the thing that you're doing every hour to 2 hours throughout the night, and it's become something which you're not necessarily happy with, you might be quite happy at bedtime to do that because it's a nice way to connect, but it might be something that's happening multiple times through the night and it's causing problems. Then you might choose to start looking at making some changes. But that's when we're talking about taking away the thing that gets them to sleep and it being the support to get them to sleep. So it's not about saying, right, I'm going to cut this off now. you're not having any help from me again. It's saying, right, okay, this particular thing seems to be the trigger. You're needing it to fall asleep. When you wake up out of a sleep cycle, you're needing me to help go back to sleep, doing this exact same thing. And actually, do you know what? I can't do it 10 times a night. I think I'm ready now as a parent to make some changes. So that might be the point where you say, right, well, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to do this anymore, but I'm going to do this instead. I've done my research, I've made a plan, I know what I need to do, and I'm okay with that because I'm going to stay with you and I'm going to help you and I'm going to pick you up and I'll help, you know, I'll soothe you. I'll help you, I'll calm you down if you're crying. Because again, this is the other thing. So many people go, oh my God, my baby's crying. This is so wrong. Actually, this is all the starts of the self-soothing process, the emotion regulatory process. It's not saying it's a bad thing to cry. It's not saying it's a good thing to cry. However, a baby can't have a conversation with you. They're telling you whether they're hungry, whether they're tired, whether they're frustrated. You know, what are those feelings that they're getting in their tummy? Are they in pain? What is it that they're actually feeling? And they can only communicate that really through crying if it's something that's of a negative feeling or that they're needing something off you. They're telling you. So what we then do is we respond to that. So their cortisol levels increase slightly while they're actually crying, because that's what happens. They cry, they're feeling a little bit stressed, their cortisol levels rise. As a parent, we then respond to that rise, we respond to that crying, and we help bring those cortisol levels down. What's happening at this point is their body and their brain is going, so this is stress, and this is how we release stress. Okay, that's not so bad. That's not quite so traumatic. Okay, hang on, I'm feeling a bit frustrated again. I'm feeling a bit upset. I'm going to cry. I'm feeling a bit stressed. And you've comforted me and you've helped me and my cortisol levels have come down and I'm not so stressed. That's not a bad thing. If your baby's constantly crying and you're not responding to them, that's a different thing entirely. But what we're doing is we're teaching their body to get used to a particular response within itself. This is useful for when they're older, because at the end of the day, if they're not used to a particular feeling and it been responded to, and figuring out that actually sometimes it's okay to feel a bit of stress as long as we've got some tools to actually level things out. If we're not actually giving them that opportunity to feel that and have it responded to, how are they supposed to manage on their first day at school? How are they supposed to manage when they go to a class or something? You know, you drop them off at preschool or you drop them off at a dance class, and suddenly, especially when you think about how COVID's been over the last couple of years, you drop off, you walk away. You know, we need to make sure that they've got some kind of toolkit to help them figure out how to go from, oh, I'm not so sure about this, to actually it's not so bad because I know what I'm doing here. So what we're saying is if your baby cries, you respond to that cry and it helps bring those levels down. So it's not a bad thing. It's a communication and it's an opportunity for us as parents to help and support our child on that journey. So this isn't about them self-soothing. This is about the very, very beginnings. This is the start of a very, very, very long journey into adulthood of managing their emotions and learning to self-regulate. It's the beginning, but we have to help them as parents. They're not by blocking it and saying, no, I can't ever let my baby cry. We're not actually giving them an opportunity to have those feelings, to actually deal with them, which in later life isn't necessarily a good thing. But what we're saying is if we're going to help our baby or child settle themselves to sleep, we're not saying to do it on their own. We're saying we'll help you do it in a different way. And if you are distressed, if you are upset, I am going to help you and I'm going to respond to you and I'm going to help bring those levels down. So then you know that actually you are safe and you are loved. That's what we're sort of doing with self-settling. And it gets to the point where you can just put them down and they will just kind of go, yeah, I'm secure in my environment. I'm secure where I am. Everything's good. I'm not so overtired at bedtime because actually everything's been good during the day. We've had a really good bedtime routine. I know what's coming and I feel quite happy here. And you can put them down and walk away. That's where you kind of get to. But that's not where you might be at the beginning. So when people are talking to you about you've got to teach your baby to self-soothe, we're not. If your baby's up multiple times and you're struggling, you want to help them settle themselves to sleep with your support, and you can start taking that support away as they need you less. And that's not bad. But all through this particular process, you are starting to literally put little nuggets in there to help them work out what these feelings are and help them with the starts of their self-soothing process. So self-soothing itself is massive. Like I say, it's emotion regulation. This is not something we figure out overnight. You'll find as your child gets that little bit older, this is where we really as parents have to start putting these foundations in place and really helping them, because in the run up to 2 years old, they are just their independent spirit starts to come out. They start to push those boundaries. Suddenly they're able to communicate a bit better, but then they become frustrated because they might want to tell you how they're feeling, but they don't really know what it is that they're feeling, so they can't actually communicate with you. This then might result in a tantrum because actually they're feeling quite overwhelmed about something. And it doesn't have to be a negative thing. Excitement can actually kind of lead into that overwhelm and into a tantrum because they don't know how to express what they're feeling, or they don't know how to communicate it because they're not there verbally. So as parents, again, this is our job as parents to help our children learn to be able to communicate both verbally and through doing things. If they're feeling angry, they might not be able to tell you that they're feeling angry, but if we can label an emotion, for example, if we can see that they're feeling quite angry about something, we can like label that for them. So this might be a 2-year-old. They don't necessarily know what anger is, but they've actually got a feeling that's going on. Something's happened, and as a parent, we can tell that that feeling is an angry type feeling. So we can then label that. So that child then knows that this feeling that I've got right now has got an actual title to it. So now I know what it is. As a parent, we can then say, okay, so you're feeling angry, and we can then give tools. So it might be, when you're feeling angry, maybe you want to jump up and down on the spot, or maybe if there's a pillow, you might punch a pillow, or you might dance or clap your hands, or we can start trying to give them tools. We can teach them things like how to take deep breaths. You're not going to get a 2-year-old going, but what we can do is we can teach them methods. So we can say maybe there's something like a rocket breath. So we can teach them to breathe in and out. And we can do this with them. We're not saying go and do it on your own. We're saying we'll do this with you. We'll help you on this journey to figuring out ways to calm yourself down. We had with Sophia the calm down step. People go on about the naughty step. We didn't have a naughty step because naughty is about telling your child that they're naughty. That's not necessarily a positive thing because you're just reinforcing the fact that you've got a naughty child, and they're kind of going, oh, I'm naughty, it's normal. We don't want that. But actually we had a calm down step, and sometimes if Sophia was feeling really quite overwhelmed, she'd walk out of the room and I'd go, where are you going? She goes, I'm just going to go and calm down. I'm just going to sit on the calm down step. And she'd go and she'd sit down and she'd sit there and she'd start doing her deep breaths. This was her taking what I'd sort of taught her over time and actually going and putting it into action herself, which is incredible. And I think she might have only been 3 when we were doing that, which I think was absolutely, no, she was 3, which is amazing for children that age to be able to do that. But again, she hasn't just figured that out on her own. That was me learning all about stuff and putting these foundations in place to help support her. And that's what it's all about. So we understand what it is our child is feeling. We put a label on that. We can tell them what that feeling is that they've got. We can then give them tools to manage it, and we can tell them it's okay and it is normal. It's okay to feel like this. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel frustrated. It's a normal emotion, because again, if we start alienating things and say, making it so actually it's not a good thing to be this way, we're going to make them feel like they can't express their feelings. But we all get angry. We all get frustrated. I'm absolutely terrible for it. I'm probably one of the most highly strung people you will ever meet. It's ridiculous. I don't deal with sleep deprivation very well. And if things are not going my way, I do not cope well. I have to really work hard to manage my own emotions. I'm 40. And I have to really work hard at that, and I absolutely lose my cool far too many times for my own liking, and it's normal, it's me. And what I'll do is I'll say, right, okay, if this happens, rewind, apologise for my behaviour, model what I want to do, and don't do it again, or try my hardest not to do it again. But again, we're not perfect, and that's okay, because nobody is. And again, if we keep aspiring to be perfect, or our children aspire to be perfect because they think that that's what we are, because we don't actually show our flaws, we're not doing them any favours. So self-soothing and self-settling, entirely different things. I know I've completely gone off on a big old tangent here about other things, but again, teenagers, very quickly, teenagers, they go through this huge part with hormones. Again, this is when they need us as parents. Parents are there to support their children through these huge development stages and help them understand how to regulate their emotions and soothe themselves. This is all self-soothing. We're not talking about sleep training when we're talking about that. We're talking about emotion regulation. Self-settling is the thing that tends to be linked more with the sleep training. However, I must stress, sleep training for me is a massive big label that goes across a whole broad spectrum of things. It's not about cry it out. If you go over to America or you see other things, I'm not going to say the names of other people, but very much in the controlled crying, leave your baby to cry alone type camp. But actually, it goes right over here to the people that say making any change, or if your baby cries at all, that is any form of sleep training. It's a huge big spectrum. For me, sleep training is teaching the parent about normal sleep so we can support our babies and children to sleep well. So we're learning as the parents and we help and support our children. So it's actually it's the parents that are getting the training. The parents have been trained about sleep and we then pass that information on and we support our children to sleep well. That is sleep training as far as I'm concerned. So we are basically helping our children to settle themselves to sleep with our support and with us responding. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as you do it in a way that you're comfortable, that your baby is okay, they are loved, they are secure, and you are not just leaving them to just sob their heart out in complete distress and just not responding. It's a different thing entirely. As long as you're all okay with whatever method you decide to do, it's fine. But it's normal to completely lose it sometimes, so don't worry, it's fine. Children do it, adults do it. It's just a normal part of life, and you can't be too hard on yourself. If you need my support, you know where you can find me, babytosleep.co.uk. Check me out on Facebook, Baby to Sleep, Instagram and Twitter are baby_to_sleep. And you can subscribe to the YouTube channel and you'll get notified every time we have a new video that comes online. I hope you found this helpful and I will update with a new video soon. See you later. Bye.